Hi, I'm Pat Fiume. I've been a realtor for over 30 years. I'm a host of the American Dream Show. Welcome to my show, Is This for Real Estate? Welcome back. I'm here with Randell Jones. He's the broker-owner of RE/MAX of Cherry Hill and the RE/MAX Preferred Franchise. Thank you for being here on my show today, Randell.
Pat, thank you very much for inviting me. I think that we should do something different today for your viewers. I think instead of you interviewing me, maybe I should interview you, because I think it would be really good for everyone to know how you actually got into the real estate business.
Okay. All right. Okay.
So tell me, how long have you been doing it?
Well, I started in 1986, which is really scary to admit that in public. I was in my 20s, and I actually was a single mom. I had a not so good marriage, and I actually wound up getting divorced with 4 children from ages 3 to 8 years old. And my friend got me a job at the bank, and because she knew I was going to leave my husband. Actually, she tried to get me to leave at the wedding. She was in my wedding. Remember Mary?
I do,
Okay,
yes.
Yeah.
But why real estate?
So Mary got me a job at the bank.
Okay.
And I talked to her, and I found out what daycare was going to cost for 2 full-time kids and 2 after school, and it was more money than I was going to make at the bank for daycare. So I realized I had to have a sales job. My ex-husband was in sales, so I didn't want to do what he did. So the funny thing was, I'd go to this car dealer thinking, I'll go sell cars, never thinking real estate. Because years ago, my aunt sold real estate, and I had actually said, I think I would like to do that. And I was very, very shy, if you can believe that. And she goes, Patty, you're way too shy. You'd never be a good realtor. You're too shy. So I said, I'm going to go sell cars. My dad was an auto mechanic. They actually sold their business to Maple Shade Mazda, bought their building. Actually, they were tenants for a while there. And I went there and talked to the guy, because I knew the men in there, because my dad was their landlord and his brothers. So I go and I said, my dad hooked me up, and I got an appointment there to go sell cars. And at that time, I had 4 kids, 3 to 8. I didn't have a lot of dress clothes. I come in this little, it was in the summer, because this happened like end of July, early August of 86. And I had a little sundress on. I remember it was blue with polka dots and a little white border. And I go in there, I'm sitting there talking to the man. He goes, well, what do you want? And you're here you want to sell cars? I said, yeah. And he goes, why do you want to sell cars? And I started telling him my story, and I started crying. And he goes, little girl, go sell real estate. That's what women do. And I said, okay. And I left. So I go home, and I start looking in the real estate section. And God rest her soul, Pat Iezzi, who was my first manager, had an ad they were going to open a Pennsauken office of Mafucci Realty. And I said, my world in Maple Shade was so sheltered and so small that like coming to Cherry Hill or Voorhees was like, oh my God, like the other side of the world. But I could handle going to Pennsauken. I was very shy, very introverted, which I know you can't believe that today, but I am actually very shy. So I go to Connie Mafucci. She worked for Mafucci Realty, and Connie Mafucci was the very first woman to own her own real estate office, like in New Jersey. Like literally, she worked for Century 21, and she wanted to be a manager, and they told her no women will ever manage here. So she quit and opened up Mafucci and turned it into 16 offices.
Right.
And the Pennsauken was going to be number 17. So I'm in there, and I met with her in the conference room. I think I had the same little sundress on. I'm not a crier, but I think I cried a little bit when I was talking to her, because she interviewed me, and I'm telling her my whole story, and she's just like, the whole time, like, asking me questions, like, and she stands up, and she's like stuttering, and she goes, don't leave. I'll be right back. Like, stay there. I'm like, okay. She comes back with Connie Mafucci, Gloria Donnan, who was her trainer at the time, Rita Connolly, who was the relocation director, and somebody else. and if I can't remember now, like way up in management. And she goes, tell them what you just told me. And I had said, I just left my husband. I have four kids, 5 years apart in age. Told them my whole story. And I had all these like huge mega people like dumbfounded with their mouths open, And Connie looks at me, and I don't know if this is what made me this stick, or it just was the hand up I needed, which is one of the reasons I want to start this podcast, because there's people out there that are really struggling, have life-changing things happening. It's life-altering things happening, and you're in such a low point in your life that you just can't see anything but the low point. And Connie said, she looks right at me and she grabbed my hand and she goes, I can tell you right now, within a year, you're going to be one of the #1 agents in this office.
Wow.
And I said, okay. And she goes, no, I'm serious. She goes, you have the guts just to walk in here and you left your husband like a week ago, not even a week ago, and you're sitting here trying to figure out how to support 4 kids. She goes, I guarantee it, I will do whatever it takes to help you, but you are going to be #1. So I signed up, and she told me to come to Career Day on Saturday, and Elaine Tersey Williams, who is now a mega owner at Century 21, who's a very good friend of mine, she was the guest speaker at Career Day. And Connie, back then, everything was, we didn't have computers, we didn't have internet, we didn't have anything really back, remember then when we started. And
you had the books.
We had real estate books. We didn't have cell phones.
Right.
We didn't have fax machines. We had copiers. That was about it. And back then, Connie would train you for 2 months, like because it took 2 months to find out if you passed the test, because it was a fill in the dot with a pencil, like a school test, and they sent it to the state of New Jersey, and you had to wait 2 months to find out if you even passed the test. So Connie used to teach people she had you come Monday to Friday and she was smart. She hooked you in. You came every week, gave you something to do while you were waiting to find out your results.
Okay.
But the good thing about that, other than hooking you in so you don't go get another job, is that she actually gave you the foundation that you need. Like, I thank God every day I went there, because I learned everything I needed to know to be confident to go out that door, at least appear confident anyway, and to be able to sell real estate. And so I go to Career Day and I listened to Elaine talk, and she had left her husband and it was a bad marriage. She's talking and I'm going, oh my God, I'm like, that's me. Like, like everything she said, I'm like, and Connie actually came in. She usually wasn't always there. She grabbed me and took me up front and introduced me to Elaine. And she told Elaine my story, and Elaine started crying. Her and I were like holding hands, crying.
Oh.
And we started hugging. Like, she's like, oh my God, I can't, you're me. And I'm like, I said, you're me. It was like a moment I'll never forget in my life. She's like, I have goosebumps. Elaine's telling me this.
Yeah.
Like, I have goosebumps. You're giving me goosebumps, literally. She goes, you're going to, and I'm getting them now just talking about it, because she still texts me all the time when I do something. I'm so proud of you. I love you, And so it was so funny. She goes, you're going to do fantastic happening, But first, Connie, though, wanted me to manage the Cherry Hill office, which is right across the street from where I'm at now, but the one with you park underneath is 1763.
Right.
So I started in 1763, Route 70 East, and I went to Haddonfield, came back, and then wound up at 1736 with Remax of Cherry Hill.
And we're going to talk about that a little bit. But
So Connie wanted me to manage an office, and she told me to go get my broker's license. And the funny thing was, I get my broker's license. I went to school for that, and another realtor who's in our office, Jim Gilbride.
okay.
I had gotten this listing from somebody who's just a woman who lived in a property that he was trying to list. And she said, she was in my farm, whoever lists this house, we'll list this house, whoever finds me a house. I wound up selling her Jim Gilbride's listing and got the listing. So he remembered me right away.
Right.
Okay. I went to to class. I got my broker's license, and Jim Gilbride actually happened to come in to recruit, and he goes to me. He looks at me, sees me in the class, and goes, "Oh God, you're not opening your own office now, are you?" It was really funny, his face.
So you were in the broker class at
I
the
was
time.
in the broker class, and he's like, "Oh my God, you're here now!" like I'm going to be his main competition, because he was Pennsauken #1 broker, Jim Gilbride.
Right.
So Connie says to me, and I said, "I don't know what I want to do. I don't know if I want to manage." She goes, "Well, why don't you start taking one of the training classes?"
Okay.
Because she says, "You're so good at listing, why don't you take the class where you show people how to break the ice and how to do a listing presentation?" So I actually trained a lot of people that are in the business today for almost 3 years.
Yeah.
I took them to a vacant house, and I acted like they were the seller, and I did a walkthrough and showed them how to break the ice.
A little role playing.
We role played.
Yeah.
And I actually, back then, you had the tape you pulled out, and I would make them hold the tape, and we measured the rooms. And I said, "Oh, that's a lovely fireplace. Did you make that mantle yourself?" Or, I showed them how to break the ice, because you're nervous when you go in, unless I still get nervous on a listing sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes. But settlers are very nervous, and you wouldn't think that, but they are.
Right.
They're just as nervous as you are, or more. And you need to break the ice to make them feel comfortable. And Connie felt I was very good at that, making people comfortable. So, because I had a lot of empathy.
Yeah.
So Connie said, "Why don't you take that class?" And there is some agents that are in business today that like Carmela Paroli was one, Teresa Taco, who became a trainer for Coldwell Banker.
Right.
She was teaching that all over the country. I had so many people in my class that are still in business today that I taught them how to list the house.
That's great. So let's move forward a little bit.
Okay.
And this should be really good. You then came to RE/MAX.
Yes.